use it or lose it. We're going to be reviewing Super Rugby Week 3. Quite a weekend it was too. Not that not that much action necessarily amongst the South African teams, but we had some incredible finishes last minute after the hooter tries. And I can tell you as a betting man, it didn't always go my way. I'm going to introduce you to the panel now. I'm going to be chatting with us tonight. And let's start off with Andre. Andre, good to have you back on the show. It was a cracking weekend of rugby, but I understand you had to divide it with a bit of babysitting duties as well.
That's correct. Parenting is very important, and so I missed the Lions a bit of raw, but I did get the Stormers finish.
Right, and let's go over to a resident couch critic. Couch, good to have you on the show. I know you're heading off to Australia soon, though. Well, on holiday.
How's it, Brent? Yeah. No, it's good to be here, and yes, it'll be my last show for a while. Everyone's asking me whether I've packed and everything, but I don't know. I suppose they don't know how a man operates. I'll do that on Friday evening for my Saturday flight.
I'm sure you will. And just to confirm, you're not you're going over for a holiday, but how long are you actually going for?
Brent, just to contrary to popular belief, there I was actually told at work to please not get a job over there and please come back. So now I'm going for 3 weeks and spending a week in Sydney and then a couple of days in Brisbane and then over to a mate in Perth for a week and then a bit of cricket at the SCG and back.
Excellent. Well, good and enjoy it, and we'll miss you on the show. But I mean, I don't see any reason why you can't get up at 4:30 a.m. while you're on holiday and come on the show from Oz.
Brent, I don't think the time's going to be an issue. It's more the data roaming cost that might be a bit of a problem, huh?
You just have to make sure you stay with people with Wi-Fi. But excellent, guys. Good to have you on the show. Just anybody who is new to the channel, if you haven't subscribed yet, go down below hand and hit the subscribe button. We've also got links in the description box to our Good for the Game forum rugby thread. That's for the guys who enjoy their betting. We talk about rugby all through the week, particularly from the betting angle. We've also got the Good for the Game newsletter, which comes out on a Friday. But let's get cracking. And guys, I think let's focus more on the South African teams this week and start off potentially with the Hurricanes up against the Sharks. That was on Saturday morning. And Couch, I'll start with you on this game. Yeah, the Sharks going into this game as underdogs, but I think a lot of us gave them a good chance to win it. In the end, though, they were blown away. I must tell you, I was at the side of the water polo pool, so I was following scores on my phone. And at one stage, I think I saw 17 all to the Sharks. And when I looked back down at my phone, suddenly they were 12 points behind. What happened there?
17 all to the Sharks, Brent. That's fantastic.
Oh,
I didn't know a draw could go in favor of a team, but that sounds good to me. Listen, I was saying in the build up to the week that all the indications were there. The Sharks came off a win, and the Hurricanes weren't too impressive, and they just done a heck of a lot of traveling. But I was just a bit afraid of those last 10 minutes that the Canes snuck a victory in Jaguares country, and I thought they just get off the plane with a little bit more confidence. And we all know playing a New Zealand team in New Zealand is always tough, and they can cut you open at any time. And at the end of the day, the Sharks just ran out of squad members, I suppose. Things just didn't go their way. Boeta Chamberlain went off early, and they had Nohamba, who, by the way, did a heck of a job slotting in there, but he isn't a proven fly-off. And they made some strange changes to the front row. I think they lost Thomas to injury and then decided to start with their bench props to have the combination of Skuman there. And I don't think that worked out nicely. We didn't get the domination over the Hurricanes, which they thought they'd get. And as soon as that wasn't there was a bit of problems. And also the lineout didn't work properly. Now, if you haven't got a dominating scrum and you don't have a decent lineout, then it's going to be a heck of a long day at the office for you. And that's what it proved to be. And at the end, Ben Lamb powered over there a few times, and it wasn't pretty towards the end.
So Chamberlain, you said he went off early, and I understand it wasn't the first 20. Was he on long enough to be able to sort of say how he was going to do it, Flav? Because I know, like Henrik Swart, who comes on our Thursday night show, he rates Chamberlain quite highly. Yeah,
no, not at all. He hardly had a touch. He was off very early, and as I said, I must say, Nohamba was all over the park, and he was busy and he did his thing. But I think eventually it catches up to you not having your first choice available, and especially in terms of how you practice and get everything together there. I think it was just a bit of a Sam geflanced the team at the end for the Sharks, and it didn't quite work out for them.
Excellent. I'm just chuckling still at your picking me up on saying that the Sharks, what did I say? The Sharks were leading 17 all or something with the draw. It shows you that I am a betting man. I was on the Sharks handicap. As far as I'm concerned, the draw was a win for the Sharks. But anyway, Andre, let's go over to you there. This game, did you manage to catch all of this one?
Yeah, no, I got this one early in the morning. I think what I noticed in this game, not going into it, I didn't know about all the changes that took place. So from a spectator's point of view, I had a bit of a neutral view. Then as you start trolling and checking, okay, the wings are different, the fly-off's different, front row's different, then you start seeing whether the Sharks are lacking in depth and experience. If I know there's a lot of talk about Fussy, but he had two relatively inexperienced wings with him this weekend, and he needed to take that responsibility and take that role in carrying the back three. If any team loses the fluff that early and has to bring on a scrum off who did reasonably well, I thought Nwamba carried himself quite well. When you've got that many disruptions at one stage in the game, being 17 all is actually quite good. I just think the disruptions and the lack of depth and experience that the Sharks had just wasn't enough to carry them through against this Hurricane side. What I also found interesting was I'm not a Sharks fan, but I've been very impressed with their scouting of their talent, their players coming through their academy and their structures. And Richards and Tyler Paul, Nwamba, those guys are really impressing me. They still make mistakes. Fussy included in that. They're still making mistakes, but they've definitely got a great future, and they're going to learn from a game like this going forward. And in time, they will learn to close out games like this.
Right,
Brent,
yeah.
Brent, just on that, in case you missed it as well, that's as Andre alludes to there, Mapimpi was also off quite early, so that was another restructure. They already didn't have Nkosi starting and then losing Mapimpi. So as Geel says, you end up having Fussy as a senior player, which is a bit rough on him. He's still young and exuberant and still has a few things to learn. So it was definitely in the deep end for the Sharks, and we always say that in the pack especially they're going to struggle as soon as their depth is tested a bit. And yes, it was nice seeing Dylan Richards get a bit of a run, but to me, I think they need to move on from Craig Burden. He never makes an impact when he comes on. He's full of vigor and effort, but he just doesn't have it anymore. And especially to me, his discipline is just gone completely. And I think that often goes with age. And I'd rather go into the into their young depth and either try Richardson at hooker or use the other backup hooker. He's also a talented guy. I can't get onto his name now, but rather have a few of those guys getting a run. That's to me the way to go, and rather move on from that. But yeah, as you said, Tyler Paul as well. He's impressive, and it's not something to worry. I always said if the Sharks can win two out of the 4 games overseas, they would have done well. And if those 2 Australian teams coming, I think the Sharks will feel pretty disappointed if they don't win one of those 2.
Excellent. Well, welcome. Just someone reminding us that it might be nighttime here in South Africa, but it's morning in New Zealand. A reverend coming in there in the live chat. So welcome to all the guys who are joining in the live chat as well. Feel free to have your say about anything on the show. Couch, anything more to add on the Sharks game before we go into what I consider the big local derby of the weekend, and it was a real thriller, the Lions against the Stormers?
No, Brent, I just think maybe Reverend can add a comment there in terms of how he sees the Hurricanes. We've all written them off, and they've snuck a result against the Jaguares. They've got their first home win now against the Sharks. To me, there's still not a lot to get excited about, and it'll be nice to know, what the feeling from New Zealand is in terms of their chances. To me, it's obviously still the Crusaders and the Chiefs that are a bit of a cut above, and I think the Hurricanes are almost in limbo. They're just trying to sneak one of those playoff spots. So it'll be interesting to see where the Hurricanes go from here, whether they're going to start falling down or whether they can make a bit of a run. But no, nothing further from the Sharks. As I said, it's not the end of the world, that loss, and they'll move on. And especially, I'm hoping to see them in action in Brisbane. So as long as they save a good performance for that one, then I'll be happy.
Excellent. We'll just had a quick look while you were talking there at the updated betting on the New Zealand Conference, and they're basically betting a match race between the Crusaders and the Hurricanes. I think it's 9 to 10 evens, and Kachin gets sort of 13 to 1 the Hurricanes. But it'll be interesting to see if anyone has an opinion. I'm not sure that we should be reading too much into this Hurricanes victory. Normally, when Henrik Swart makes a long-term call to oppose a team, he's normally correct. So I won't be jumping onto the Hurricanes just yet. What did you make of the Hurricanes, though, Andre? Do you think? The fact that they managed to go to Argentina and get the win after that opening defeat to the Stormers, they've now come home, beaten a Shark side that must have been seen as a potential banana peel. I guess the way they view it is the only way from here is up.
No, I think the Stormers game was a bit of a wake-up call for them. I think they might have also come on tour and said, "Listen, we've got 2 games right at the beginning of the tournament. Let's get them out of the way." And I think they got a bit of a fright when not scoring a try against the Stormers. So they went back, did their homework, and did a very quick turnaround. So I think I haven't placed them in the top 4 in my rankings, but we'll definitely have to relook at them. I think they're a bit of an enigma because they blow hot. They've been blowing hot and cold. They'll have moments in a game that are just spectacular, and then you have a moment where there's a lapse in concentration, and you're able to score some good tries against them. So I really can't place them at this moment in time.
Well, let's go on to the Lions Stormers game, and we can touch on any of the other games that caught the eye with the big New Zealand derby on the Friday morning as well. But Lions are up against Stormers here, Andre. I know you couldn't watch the whole game, but the Stormers were, if I could say from a betting angle, fairly well-backed favourites up to a point, although there were also Lions supporters on this one as well. And this ended up being an absolute cracker when you consider that the Stormers, well, they hadn't conceded a point going into this game. There were always going to be points in Johannesburg, but the Lions showed that they can't be written off.
No, that's true. The Lions are surprising me as they do every year. But the Stormers, for me, it was in the game. There were 2 lapses of concentration, and I was talking to somebody today, and we actually used in club rugby in the team I played. We used a term called riot. And that would be, we'd know if the captain called riot, we'd have 10 minutes now where we'd up the tempo of the game, take it to the opposition, and in that period, we want to walk away with about 10 to 12 points. And I think the Lions in this game hit that riot button just at the right time, and scored some good tries and really exposed the Stormers structure. If you catch them when they're in their dip during the game. And the defense structure, yes, that Elton's try that I watched on replay now, where he went between the 2 forwards. That yes, you could have driven a slow mini through there, and or Prop could have ran through there and scored. It was that gap was so big. So,
but it came after a long build-up, that try, if I remember correctly. I mean, it looked like there was nothing, and I got to say that I really did enjoy the pace with which Elton Jantjies hit the ball when he took it there.
Yeah, he did. He hit it quite hard. But this comes to like why I don't enjoy Lions rugby, and I know a lot of people will disagree with me because they think it's entertaining. To me, the Lions live by the sword, they die by the sword. And if you're going to riot and play that up-tempo game for 10 minutes, you need to ensure you've got the fitness levels and the ability to defend after that 10 minutes when the opposition now have got the ball. And I don't know, I suspect maybe that 10 minutes of rugby where they just ran from everywhere and 60-meter runs and everything that might have caught up with them, resulting in now 7 minutes that they had to defend their line. Ended up getting a penalty, kick to the corner, couple of phases, and then the Stormers scored. And I think the Lions' way of playing just it results in them conceding a lot of tries, because after you've tried to run 60, 70 meters with the ball in hand, 9, 10, 12 phases, you're going to be receiving the ball. You're either going to kick it back or try and run it. And if you lose it, you're going to be stuck in your half. You're going to be huffing and puffing from your previous 10 minutes of phase play. And yeah, to me, it's not very bright rugby. And yeah, I know people disagree on that.
It was interesting, Couch. I'll bring you in there because it's clear what the Lions were trying to do from the start. They were trying to run the Stormers off their feet. And early on, the Stormers were up to it, but it did look like a patch in that second half. And an interesting way Andre put it, like call it the riot period, where they were turning it on. But at the same time as they were turning it on, it honestly looked to me at that point like the Stormers were absolutely out on their feet. And I really thought the Lions had actually timed it to perfection. They'd come with a late run to get the game. And then somehow the Stormers pulled out what was a pretty miraculous try, I think, at the end of the day there. What were your thoughts on that? Because I thought they almost got it right, and yes, in the end they lost the game. But I'm a bit of a neutral, as you know. I'm very much a betting man, and I'm wearing my Western Province shirt here because that's where I was born. But for me, I do love the way the Lions play the game.
Oh, Brent, I think I wrote to my piece that they did the old rope-a-dope there, and I think that's pretty much what the Lions do, week in and week out at Ellis. They just, I wouldn't say they take blows, but they just play up-tempo. They play riot rugby, if you want to call it that, for 80 minutes. There's no 10 minutes to the Lions. They just throw balls to the walls for 80 minutes, and it makes sense. There's sense to the madness. It's crazy to do it the way they do it, and I've always felt that the problem for the Lions is there's no plan B, there's no alternative. It's helter skelter, and that's it. And their approach is almost like, we don't care how much you're going to score, we're going to score more. So we're not going to worry too much about being the best defensive team. We're just going to score more tries. And luckily for them, unfortunately, and maybe that is the whole philosophy of Swayze the Brain and those guys who brought it in, that the Highveld's going to catch up to you in those last 20 minutes, and then the fact that they did play this expansive game is going to work in their favor. So perhaps kicking to the corners and playing percentages wouldn't make them as effective as they are in those last 20. And as you said, I've often felt, to me, the most difficult thing to do in running in terms of betting is tennis, because a guy like especially Andy Murray or those guys, they look absolutely out in one set, and then the next set it's like, what the hell happened? Now all of a sudden he's winning at 6-1. And to me, that was what happened in the Lions game there, when I came back, actually went away and came back like after 15 minutes. I didn't watch the second half, and then I saw it transformed from 20. I got, and it was 26-15, and all of a sudden the Lions switched on. And I thought, the Stormers were absolutely blowing. They were out on their feet. It was, listen, let's just hit them with a knockout. It's, they're about to go down. And then somehow, they just lifted themselves, or, for the last 5 minutes, and that move from the halfway line, to just keep the ball alive and just keep it going, and eventually score the try was fantastic from them. But, you could see they were out of it. And even again, we saw it in the Brumbies game. Maybe it wasn't the best idea of the Lions to take the penalty kick, and they should have hit it into the corner and try to seal the game, or at least try and keep the game on that end and tell the Stormers, okay, listen, if you want to beat us, you got to run all the way to the other end. So, as I said, it's always a tough gig with the Lions, but I must say, in those last minutes, I actually, I was on the Stormers big time in terms of the betting. And I actually had to take cover there with 20 minutes to go. I just felt like all the momentum was shifting over, and I took them 5-1, and I basically covered my bet. And with 2 minutes to play, I thought I was a bloody genius for doing that, because it just looked like the Stormers had absolutely nothing left in the tank.
Couch, just staying with you, and I'm going to ask Andre the same question. One guy who takes plenty of abuse from the fans is Elton Yankees. And I'm the first to admit, I've never really been convinced of him as being like the man for the box side. But I thought he was absolutely superb on Saturday. What did you make of his performance?
Yeah, Brent, maybe I'll talk about Elton, and then Andre can, and then we can just talk about the Lions in general if you want. So in terms of Elton, I'm 100% with you there. I give him a lot of stick. I think he performs really well for the Lions, and he's a crucial part of it. But to me, he just doesn't general the game enough. especially a tight, difficult game when things aren't going according to plan, especially for his pack. In Ackerman's day, it was quite easy for Elton at 10. The pack was really dominating, and he could do his tricks, and it looked easy. And as soon as he got to the box, he was nowhere. But especially, this past weekend, the pack wasn't dominating, and I think he really took a step up. I think he needed to show his skill against a heck of a lot of Springboks on the other side, and he really did. There was some really good rugby from him. A good cross kick, chip, or kick pass. That nice gap there at the end, and he was just controlling matters. As I said, I'd still like to see a little bit more strategic kicking from him, but it's not part of the Lions' DNA, which is, I think, a little bit of a concern, because that's the thing you never see from him, is really just dominating it, putting it into corners and that kind of thing. And that's the one part that you'd like to see from him, but you understand in their game, it's not going to be there. But he had an absolute crack of a match.
Andre, just bringing you in there. I know you're not a Lions fan as such, but had to be a bit impressed with Elton, surely.
No, in the first, I think it was about the first 10 minutes of the game, I actually put out a tweet and I said, like clockwork, Elton will pass to a pod on his right. And that was like a prediction of things to come during the game. And the game changed, and he came into the game a lot more. The cross kick for the try, for Skossan's try, that was well done. After sustained pressure, in the playing rugby in the right areas, that kick was also spot on. So he's come a long way since the days before Rassie was coach, and I think you can see a marked improvement in his game from when Alistair Coetzee left and Rassie took over. I just think he got given so much more confidence from the Springbok coaching structure that gave him direction and told him, this is where you are, this is where you fit in the setup. And I think the Springbok environment that was created allowed him to learn and express himself the way he wants to. And he's been able to use that he learned with the Lions at this moment in time. Saturday.
Sorry, Andre.
Yeah, this game on Saturday, I missed that 10 minutes of play where he really dictated how the game went, and the feedback I got from my mates and everything was like he really stepped up. And as a spectator of the game, as a fan of the game, that's the only thing I expect from our professional players, is to try and play the most perfect game. If we still lose, that's okay, as long as we've played to the best of our abilities and we've minimized our mistakes. Then as a fan, I'm happy. It's when you start making mistakes and you drop your head and you're not interested in the game, that's when I've got a problem. But he's really turned his rugby around, and my commentary on him has actually totally subsided because he's come to the party on his side. I want to say, like, very professionally.
Yeah, he certainly is playing some great rugby. He looks set for a good season. But let's talk about the Lions quickly, Andre, because obviously now they're off to a slow start to the season. If I look at the betting, they're out to 40-1 now. That's just for the South African conference, never mind to actually win the tournament. I mean, is there any salvaging this season from the Lions based on what you've heard and what you've seen from them? I mean, is it too early to write them off, or do you think they can come back into it?
No, I think they've got playoff potential. They've got, though they've lost senior coaches like Swayze, I think they've still got enough rugby IP in the setup, and they've got some good talented players. They're probably second to the Sharks in the development of their players coming through. When you look at Green and now the name escapes me, some of the youngsters that they've brought through. But what they've got that the Sharks don't have is they've got Andries Coetzee back, and at Super Rugby level, he's a nice experienced head. I thought he also had a reasonably decent game. You've got Elton. So I think they just need to settle on their midfield, and somehow they've got to get Simelane in there. I don't know what the story is there, why he hasn't started. If there's a cloak and dagger, why are they keeping quiet about him? But I don't see the reason why they can't just come out and say, this is the issue, this is the problem, so that the fans can understand. I think they're going to need to. I want to come up to a point here, and I saw it. Hein mentioned Craig Burden, and I'm going to mention now Yanni du Plessis, and somebody else will mention Mornay Steyn. I think the experiment of bringing senior players back at franchise level is, at this moment in time, has not been as successful as it was with Rassie bringing some of the senior players like Frans Steyn back into the Springbok squad. So I think they've been trying to use the blueprint in some of the teams. I think the only one that's really working is probably Jamie Roberts for the Stormers.
Yeah, Jamie certainly does. He had a bit of a shaky first half, I thought, for the Stormers, but after that he sort of came right. I got to ask you, Couch, I saw you smile as well. Hilton Hassan coming on now. He's watching on Facebook. The show is streaming live to YouTube and Facebook. Brent doing the show live from his shower with a curtain drawn. Hilton, just because you're engaged now, mate, don't get overconfident, eh? So,
Brent, I must say, I've had a few punts on WSB where I also just wanted to pull the curtain on those, eh?
That's it. Hilton, of course, is with WSB, based down there in the Western Cape. He's getting married in September. It took him 15 years to pop the question, or somewhere around there. Finally, he proposed to poor old Lee, and they are getting married. And I'm pleased to say I'm cracking the nod for that one, mainly because I'm partly responsible for the wedding, having put so much pressure on Hilton over the years. I've been Lee's greatest ally there, so looking forward to that. Couch, are the Lions done and dusted for the season, or is there something still to salvage for them? I mean, we've only to week 3.
Brent, I must say it's an interesting point that Andre mentioned. There is, it's such a fine line with these, experienced veterans coming over. You get those successful campaigners and ideas like Dwayne Vermeulen and Skalk Brits were, and then you get the flops that maybe the guys just come in a bit of coin here at early pension. I mean, we saw JP Peterson come over, and we haven't seen anything from him since he's been back. I don't even know whether he's in the Super Rugby squad, and pretty much the same from Yanni at this early stage. So it's a bit of a coin toss. But then I think someone who only one game in looks like he could have been worth his weight in gold is Willem Alberts, and I must say, if he's worth his weight, then it's got to be a heck of a lot, because he's a solid bloke. But he looked pretty decent there. It was a first touch, but he was solid, and it just looked like there was this step up. All of a sudden, there's a bit of a manier on the field here, and everyone was taking a step back, and he hit the ball, carried it up, and those big hits. Maybe he's not going to be as fast catching a fly off that takes an inside step, but if he does catch you, it's going to be your last inside step. So it's probably going to be a good thing having him around. And when you get a Jaco Kriel, he's someone who hasn't lost that pace, and he's got the experience. So those two are going to really help them. And then you've got Elton Jantjies, who of course is the settled man. And I don't know what the situation is on Ross Conrier. If he can come back, he's again one of those underrated players in the Lions setup, where he usually helps to decide at what tempo they play, and he's crucial to me. That's where they're lacking that 9 that really helps Elton out a little bit. But I must say, sorry.
I think he played in the warm-up game. I think
he's making his way back, so that's a good one. And then just in terms of what was I going to say now? The Lions in general. What I was going to say is I was a little bit surprised that I backed them to probably be the bottom team in the conference, but after this game, and that being against the local Stormers team, 20 minutes in, Steven Kitsoff was taking a break on his haunches there, and Peter Steff de Toy, and these are experienced Springboks who've played rugby over there. So just imagine when the Australians and New Zealanders start coming over. I think the Lions are really going to be able to give a few of those guys a clap. I mean, we all expected the Reds to romp away, and that was the Lions team that came back from Argentina. So I still think the Lions are going to be a tough nut to crack at home, and that might give them enough points to be in the running. But I think they'll struggle eventually over season, especially if a bit of their depth starts to be tested.
So, Andre, just to come to you, I'm pleased Couch raised Willem Alberts, because I was impressed with him. I seriously doubted the Lions when they brought Willem Alberts back. I thought, surely now the guy still can't do it. But my impression when I saw Alberts was, this is how the Lions use him. Impact player. Don't ask for more than 20, 25 hard minutes from him. But in that time, when he's playing against guys who are tired, who've been on the field for a long time, he's going to make you big yards. And I thought the Lions used him perfectly. I mean, I guess, at some stage he may start. But for me, I'd be quite happy if I was the Lions to say, right, Alberts, we're getting you fit for 25 minutes a weekend, where you just go full stick for the time you're on the field. What do you think of that?
You're hitting the nail on the head. I've always believed Willem Alberts in South African rugby wasn't necessarily used properly, and I'm not sure if that's because of how contracts work and game time works and how much time they're supposed to be playing. But when he was in the Springbok setup, I never ever thought of him as a starting blindside flank. I was adamant that he should have been coming off the bench for that last 25, like you said, and really taking it to the teams with that power and that bulk, setting up platforms so that we can use the width and the speed, suck in defenders. And I think as well, a lot of our players go overseas, and Morné Steyn, Willem Alberts, these guys come back and you can actually see the professionalism in them, something that they might have not necessarily learned here in South Africa. If we think back to Percy Montgomery, how he came back and how he had transformed from when he was playing for Western Province. These guys, they come back and they're proper professionals. They take the game seriously. They've got the experience. They've played in different conditions, and that's what we should be learning from, and that's what these youngsters should be learning from these seniors that have been brought back. But at the same time, they need to start delivering. And Willem, definitely, I think he shouldn't even worry about playing 60 minutes. He's second half. Use him in the second half, specifically there on the high felt. I think that's going to be that's a great asset to have on the bench. Bringing off somebody like that to close out a game for you.
Brent, if I can just come in, I think, on the same show, I think it was just before the World Cup, we talked with Judge and those guys, and it was, just the impact that these guys have and are coming back. And I think we overemphasize what they do on the field, and especially when they aren't necessarily quite in the best shape to still perform. I'm thinking about a guy like Morné Steyn. He was still clocking it in fitness apparently, and it's just maybe that touch that isn't there anymore. But and I think that's what Schalk Brits brought to a setup, is just teaching some of these young guys not necessarily just how to play, but that professional aspect of how to train and what you should be doing behind the scenes. Maybe not even with Flock Sillier, whoever's your kicking coach, but doing that extra yards, that kind of thing. Just those little touches, because I think often in this professional era, that's something that just goes amiss, is these little pointers, and someone who's experienced, who's got the time and who's willing to just give you a little bit of a helping hand and say, listen, you should be doing this or you should be doing that. All these youngsters just want to get their Range Rover, pitch up there and do their 20 minutes that they have to do and then leave. Whilst I think these other guys who've been there and gone through it are able to just tell them, listen, this is how they do it up there, and this is what you need to do to be able to get up there. And I think it helps the coaches a lot as well. There's those little things that coaches don't have the time and the focus on. They're worried about the bigger picture, and now you got guys like Morné Steyn who can come in there, and Jamie Roberts at the Stormers who can just bring that extra little bit, without it being a formal training session, just those little tips and pointers, and people, just look at them in terms of how they act and how they carry themselves, and that to me is important, or just as important as what they can deliver on the field. But obviously it is important, if you think about guys like Jannie and Willem, the Lions have lost that experience, and they do need them to also play a role on the pitch.
Right, and Couch, anything else on the Super Rugby front catch your eye? I mean, one thing I do want to talk about is the Bulls. Now, they didn't play this weekend, but I happen to see them priced at 75-1 for the South African Conference. Now, they've lost 2 away games. They've yet to play at home. Are they being written off prematurely, or do you think it's fair comment they got no chance? I see Andre shaking his head, so we know where he thinks on that one.
Brent, at the end, I just want to touch on the Highlanders and the Brumbies, and especially the Aussies. But onto the Bulls. Yeah, listen, I hear what you're saying, and I see where you're coming from. In this conference, it could end up being a heck of a, lose 4 or 5 games and win the rest, and they all could be pretty close. When we saw the Jaguares there, it looked like they'll be the team to take it away, and then they slipped up against the Hurricanes. The Sharks looked good, and then they lost against the Canes, and we don't know what's going to happen on the rest of the tour. They lose the rest of the games, and all of a sudden, they're not quite as a bright spark as everyone thought. The Stormers, who are 3 from 3 and looking good on the log, they've struggled to find their attacking groove. So it's almost like there's a reason to write everyone off at the moment, and not a heck of a lot of reasons to back them. So when you get yourself into that situation, you might as well go for someone that looks like a little bit of value. But to me, I just haven't seen anything from the Bulls to excite me. I know they'll probably get to a stage that Marnie Libbok starts and everything like that, but I don't think one little change is going to change everything there. I think I wouldn't say there's problems in the camp, but I just think it's not their season, it's not their year, and I'd be very surprised if they keep themselves in the reckoning come late in the competition.
Andre, you were shaking your head there about the Bulls.
No, I just think there's just too much ground lost there with the amount of players that they've lost. That tree is very bare, and I think they just don't have I don't have an issue with the coaches. I just think the coaches don't have that X factor that can unlock a game where they will rock up and go, okay, this is what we need to do against this team to win. They set in their ways. This is how we're going to play, and it's not even about having a plan B. They just can't even do plan A properly, and it's when they're doing plan A properly and it's not working, then they can start looking at other plans. And I'm still flabbergasted with the way they played against the Stormers. The Stormers were giving away smarties in their own 22, and they didn't take it. They could have been 9 points up with 10 minutes to play, and could have maybe at least gotten away with a losing bonus point, and they just didn't take it. So the rugby IQ there at the moment just isn't good enough for Super Rugby. I also think in the long term of things, if last year we had the Sharks and the Bulls, I think they made the playoffs with like a 40 less than a 50% win record. So I think we're going to see a couple of sides with this structure of Super Rugby, teams with less than a 50% win record make the playoffs again. And maybe that's just what you need to make sure you get your foot in the door. But I don't see them progressing past the round robin stages.
Brent, just on that one, I think where you're coming from is you almost expecting this big Loftus aspect and influence to come in, and I just don't think that this young Bulls team is there where they all of a sudden going to win everything at home. That to me is the difference between this one and some of the others, is that they've lost only 2 games, but it hasn't been there. And I actually think this weekend, strange as it may seem, in only their 3rd game, I think it's going to be crucial for them to beat the Blues. They lose their first home game against Kiwi opposition. It fails from there. I mean, then you can already see the tour is going to be an absolute shambles for them, especially the New Zealand games. And it's just, to me, it's an absolute must win and really give their fans something and tell them, listen, come back to Loftus, because that's when they're at their best, when they've got some backing there. But lose to the Blues, and it's going to be a heck of a long season.
Well, I'm actually predicting Blues to lead at halftime, Bulls to come and win the game. I think they're going to do kind of what the Lions did last week, but they might make it stick against the blue side. But we'll see about that. But Kat, you wanted to comment on a few other New Zealand teams, the Highlanders?
Brent, Andre mentioned that the two late scores or I think it was before we came live. Two late scores to win, or he was last ditch results. But geez, what a crazy weekend to see 2 tries after the route. I mean, not even penalties, two tries to win it. And you were talking about the halftime, full time there. I tell you, I've never been as disappointed in the result as that Brumbies Highlanders game. I made the mistake of halfway through looking at who went for what in Super Brew, and I thought, geez, I'm spot on. Yeah, everyone's gone for the Highlanders in my pool. I'm going to be moving up. This is fantastic. And I had a bet on the Brumbies as well before the game. So, no, everything was looking 100%. And then, lo and behold, I told the guys he shouldn't have kicked for goal, kick for the corner, take up the time. They didn't do it. Then they tried to run down the clock, called Brent Graham's favorite tactic, running down the clock in the final 2 minutes, 20 in your own 22. They were under pressure at every single ruck before that, and geez, they just got themselves into trouble. And I mean, that's got to be a devastating loss. They tactically dominated that game. They did exactly what they needed to do in the conditions. They gave away a charge down try, which is soft as you can get, especially in tough conditions where you got to work hard for your points. And then that try at the death. I mean, if I was the Brumbies coach, and I mean, I've just lost out on Super Rugby. I haven't lost a game where I'm the coach. I would be absolutely livid with that performance. That was, apart from my hooker scoring a hat trick, which obviously just makes me happy as a rule. But apart from that, I literally, when a guy has to go to the gym to get over a result, it has to be bad.
Yeah, look, unbelievable result there. I mean, I was on the Brumbies. Actually, my best bet of the weekend was the Brumbies to win by 5 or more. So I happened to also, as I said, I was watching water polo. So I looked at my phone, 3 minutes to go, and I saw they were leading by 6 points. I thought, well, this should be in the bank. They just have to avoid conceding a try. And then all of a sudden, the WhatsApps were going crazy, and I realized something terrible had happened. But please don't bring up Super Brew, because I had an absolute shocker. I think in the money pool, I'm sitting something like 59th out of 69. I'm already gone. I don't see any road back for me. I'm like the Bulls. I'm absolutely gone. Andre, what did you think of that Highlanders Brumbies game?
No, I missed that one, but I got the last 15 minutes of it. And just one thing I've taken over the last year, a lot of fans, they just want to see tries and they want to see running rugby because they want entertainment. And I caught a couple of tweets going out, and a lot of people complaining about the Brumbies tactics and resorting to a maul to score a try. But if you don't perfect all the skills of rugby, you're going to come up into a game where you're going to have terrible weather, and you need the skills to close out the game and to win the game. We spoke about Leinster putting one over the Cheetahs in terrible weather, but look at that score. They've learned to play in weather like that, and when they come here and they get some dry fields, they can show their other skills of running rugby and their dry weather skills. I just think we as fans are too quick to write off the close combat stuff like mauls and the importance of a scrum in wet weather, the importance of good lineouts in the right areas of the field, the perfection of a good tactical kick. And so that's what I took from that last 15 minutes, where certain things weren't executed properly and they allowed the Highlanders back into the game.
And
Brent, just quickly on that, what I just want to add before I talk about the Aussies in general as well is, it's one thing to say running rugby, and I suppose, it's like saying, do you like to watch the Lions perform where it's just throwing the ball through the hands? But at the same time, you watch the Argentines playing in Buenos Aires, and every time they kick to the corner, those oaks are going boss. They think it's time. It's going to be Creevy getting over the line. It's going to be Julian Montoya. It's they get psyched up about it. It's a rolling maul try, but as Andre said, there's a lot of tactics and mechanisms to get in place to make sure it's a good one. If it was easy and like throwing darts, then anyone would have been doing it. Now you see, the Brumbies not kicking for the corner, other guys not kicking, Stormers maybe not kicking for the corner because they don't feel like it's 100% option. But to the Jaguares and okay, the Brumbies, apart from that example, 90% of the time they feel like they're going to be able to score. So to them, it's the try scoring move. It's like going for the scrum or setting a move. The crowd gets excited and everyone gets into it, and they're looking forward to a try, whether it's from a skip move and an inside run or whether it's from a rolling ball. A try is a try, and everyone gets behind it. And to me, that's the nice part about when they do it well. And then just onto that, what I wanted to say about the thing in general, though, is that the Highlanders, who are arguably going to be the worst team in the New Zealand conference, going over there, playing the Brumbies in Canberra, and the Brumbies, before that game was seen as the leading Australian team, and even after that game, you've got to say that the Brumbies, in terms of what they have and their structure and how they play the game, are probably the most complete Australian team. The Rebels have struggled, the Waratahs are nowhere, and the Reds are a young team. So to think that was the best the Australian conference has to offer against probably the worst that the New Zealand conference has to offer, and they're losing a home game. There's something wrong with Super Rugby when that happens. Don't get me wrong, I love Super Rugby. To me, it's the best kind of rugby, and New Zealand derbies are great, and us playing them. But there's really something, internally sick about Australian rugby that somebody needs to sort out, because it's really going the wrong way.
Excellent. Well, that's my little comment up there. We won't go into detail now, but I cannot handle all these rolling balls. I don't mind the rolling ball, but I think actually, I think the referee's interpretation of how the defense is bringing it up, to me, it's so inconsistent. And for me, I would like to see defending teams being given the benefit. Let the defending team take the bloody legs out and bring it down. I cannot handle the fact that you're 5 or 6 players away from the ball, and there's no legal way to get to it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But we won't harp on about that one now. Andre, any other Super Rugby comments for yourself?
Yeah, 2 things. One, the Crusaders defend the ball very well, legally.
Yes.
However, one thing I picked up this weekend, the Hurricanes scored 3 tries around the rush defense against the Sharks. 2 of them came from cross kicks, and then the one they were winning. They had the momentum in the first half, and they had put in quite a lot of they were putting a lot of pressure on the Sharks, and the Sharks shot up. Fassi was unfortunately out of position, left Wes Goosen open to score. And then there were the 2 cross kicks where I think Fassi and Tambe both went for to catch the ball. They missed it. Lau Mape scored the one, Pat Lamb scored the other, and then Fassi didn't kick out, and then 2 quick passes, and then Lamb went down the middle of the field. Then the Lions got around the rush defense also with Alton Yanci's his cross kick. So I'm sure Rassie and the Jacques Inaba and the boys will be looking at that, because the teams have now had time to work out how to get around this rush defense. And I think I'm going to be following how this plays out with South African teams adopting the rush defense, and how in the end we will if more tries will be scored through these kick passes.
Right, guys, I want to bring up a tweet that I saw earlier. I just thought it was quite interesting. Reverend, who was on the show, they actually tagged me in it to say, and a couple of other guys to say, what do you make of this? It's a tweet from Green and Gold, which is an Australian account. Super Rugby home team refs penalty awarded differential since 2017. I can't believe people actually keep these stats. But he reckons Australia plus 16, New Zealand minus 15, which I think implies that the visiting team gets more penalties. South Africa plus 159 and Argentina plus 19. Couch, I don't expect you to analyze this now, but what do you make of this? Does it surprise you? Would you like to see a bit more detail as to how this stat was arrived at?
Yeah, I think we need to audit that firstly, but secondly, I think I presume we've got a lot more, home refs refereeing our games. I mean, obviously the Argentinian, okay, it's since 2017, but I don't think the Argentinians really ref their own games as much. I think this weekend was the first time this season. The past times it wasn't the Argentinian ref. So I think it just happens that I don't know, maybe Paper doesn't like traveling or something. So obviously they do it a lot. But I must say this weekend I was a little bit concerned about those RGs that were in charge there in Buenos Aires. That looked slightly dodgy to me, and the communication from the TV ref there was that was a bit hair raising. So I wouldn't really advise them to do that too often, because it does look a little bit like a hometown umpire's decision, like we get on the cricket field. But no, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. Obviously, they can say the South Africans get the advantage, but we can just say we just happen to get the proper refs because we got the best ones around. Because I mean, those Aussies they're not great, eh?
They're certainly not. Andre, any comment from you on that before we wrap up?
I think this is it's superficial. There's just so much missing from this, and I think in Australia there's more important things that they should need to be worrying about than if a ref's giving them penalty or giving us more penalties. I can go just looking at those stats already. We've been complaining about French refs forever and a day, and listening to some of the podcasts coming from up north. All of a sudden now the French refs are useless, reffing the Pro 14 and Six Nations. They don't know what's going on at the ruck. They don't know what's going on at scrum time. But South Africans have been complaining about this since 2013. And so, but what I take from it is each country has a different style of rugby. And that style of rugby is also controlled by the various referees. So whenever we play games, we've got to adapt ourselves to how a ref, who's the ref, how's he going to blow? Nigel Owens blows different to Poitier, who blows different to Paper. So to me, it's noise in the system because it's superficial information about something where they should be worrying about fixing their game.
Yeah, that's it. I'd certainly need to have more information before I make any solid judgment call on that. Couch, anything to close the show with tonight before you head off to Oz?
Yeah, Brent, I just quickly wanted to add, maybe you can jump in here as well in terms of answering it. I just want to say firstly that I think the influence of one player was seen this weekend, and the Crusaders having Richie Mo'unga back makes like a heck of a difference to their lineup. He was doing a little chip kick and gather there, and he was slicing through on his own, and his combination with Goodhue, that was good for the All Blacks to see. That was superb as well. So the only thing I wanted to ask you and Andre maybe is, do you guys think that Cruden can get his foot in the door there in terms of All Black selection if he gets things going right? Because I mean, Joshua Hein also playing at inside centre at the moment, so maybe there's not quite as much cover. Or do you think the All Blacks will be feel like they've got enough with D-Mac also involved and possibly having the option of moving into 10?
I think when you got Bowden Barrett coming back, you got Richie Mo'unga, and then you also got to look to the future. You got Joshua Ione. I think you would be really it'd be a bit of a Stephen Donald call if they really need him.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's not that he's not good enough to get back. I think there's just so much depth there in New Zealand, and really, if they have to look at it, you got Barrett and Mo'unga, and someone else they're going to bring along is going to be coming along as someone for the future. I don't think they'll go back to Cruden unless there's a situation where you've got a couple of injuries or maybe they want to rest players or whatever. By all means, he might get another cap or two, but I don't see him forcing his way in. What I do see from him is an excellent Super Rugby season. I think he's a great player. I've always enjoyed him, and I think he's going to have an excellent season for the Chiefs. He's going to prove to be one of the buyers of the season. And one of the fly-offs who really can dictate a game.
Cool.
Kachi, anything else from you, lad?
100%.
Andre, from you, anything?
I see we avoided the Dan Coles tackle.
Oh, that's actually a good point. Now, let's chat about that quickly. What did you make of that one?
Well, a penalty was given. Yeah. In accordance with the law book, a penalty was given. And I think what a lot of, the chat on the social media that was coming out, and a lot of the WhatsApp group with screen grabs from people from New Zealand saying, we must get over it. You know what? 10 years ago, we wouldn't have worried about it. But today we've got framework. World Rugby has put out a framework. They put out a directive stating that contact to the head is a no-no. And when you look at the framework that has been provided, one, he's contravening the laws. Two, his first contact is with the head. And when you look at the framework that was given and you look at the mitigating factors, that was a red card every day of the week. If that was in a World Cup game, that would have been a red card and he would have been suspended.
Coach, what do you think of that one? I mean, Dan Coles has got a reputation now, certainly among South African supporters, as being a little bit dirty. I didn't really see the incident properly. I only saw a couple of glimpses of it on Twitter. And Andrew just popping up and saying that we've just won the Lurie's Team of the Year. So that's good news. But Coach, what did you make of that one?
If the Boks won that, it clearly means that Sia was traveling again, eh? But no, I think on that one, he's almost getting to that stage where he's like burdened a little bit. I feel often when a guy isn't quite as fit and quite at his best, then he starts to niggle a little bit more, and I think that's where Dane Coles is at the moment. He's rather, he was the captain when at that stage, and to me he was poor. He was always involved in the scuffles, and there was that incident as well. And Andre has got it 100%. I mean, the referee went on to say that the arm came round and things like that, and that's irrelevant. Firstly, it was on the ground, which is it's automatic penalty. And secondly, it was high. So put that two together, and that's at least a card. I mean, it's poor that there was nothing. And I mean, it's again, you can't just be harsh in World Cup here. You've got to almost be harsher before a World Cup to set the trend and make sure that by the time you get to a World Cup, things are in place. But now we've seen certain calls. I mean, the same. Obviously, there was money involved, but let's not go there. In the Brumbies and the Highlanders game is. They slowed that down, and it was a proper shoulder charge. I mean, there wasn't even arms coming around, and I thought, and I think most people did in slow-mo, it was a direct shoulder to the head, and that's a red. And it was almost like the refs, they don't want to spoil a game. They rather, let someone point it out afterwards and things like that. But, from the World Cup, we know that is solid red. Just direct contact to the head, regardless of a shoulder. In this case, there was no wrap or anything, and it was. So, I mean, to me, they just need to get the consistency. And, Brent, I've always said that I don't mind the, judgment calls and things like that. You standing on one side and you miss something, or, the ref doesn't see the game the way the viewers does. But you need consistency in terms of how the TMO is used. And you need consistency in terms of how they call it week in and week out. And to me, that's a bit lacking at the moment. And they need to make sure that everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on the consistency. I think one of our New Zealand viewers coming in and saying the tackle was okay. Look, I looked at it. I battle with the new rules. I really do. You know that, I think, Coach. I mean, I look at it often. I see players getting penalised for something which, in my view, they can't control. I mean, I think it was a bit irresponsible of him to come in like that. Just a little bits I've seen on it. Yeah, I do think probably something a little bit more was warranted, but I haven't really watched enough of it to say for sure. But I do struggle with the rules a bit. Maybe just one other quick thing to chat about before we close off. Cheslin Colby playing fly half for his top 14 team. Andre, what did you think of that? I see Jared Wright has posted a few pictures of him nailing some kicks and that. I mean, is that a bad thing or I mean a good thing? I mean. Or is it just a once-off, do you think? Did they just need him in 10 for this game?
From what I could, the information that I could get before the game, it was just a once-off because they've got like 3 players in the French national side that weren't available. And then I think the other backup fly was injured, if I remember correctly. So listening to one of the British podcasts today, apparently Cheslin many years ago at primary school or first couple of years at high school did play fly off, and the game plan was give it to Cheslin and he'll go and do his thing. But obviously this is now Pro 14, this is top 14. It's not schoolboy rugby, but I think he's played enough rugby to know what his abilities are, and he's kicking at goal. I think we tend to forget everybody. A lot of players tend to go and kick the ball a little bit before practice, and I think he would have been given a lot of confidence to go and practice and an opportunity to practice and to prepare for the game, even if it was at short notice. And I think he's proven me wrong, and I've been very vocal that I was wrong about him. And I think he's probably one of the most professional players we've got in the country, and the structures at Toulouse just allow him to show his talent. And I think it would be probably just a one-off, and he'll move back. And I think he'll learn so much from that, from playing fly-off, moving back into fullback and wing.
Couch, what do you think here? I'll just share my views on it. I mean, yeah, it probably was a once-off, but not a bad thing for South Africa to know that in a situation where you may need, you don't have enough fly-off cover on the bench or something like that you could pull him into the 10 jersey and he's had a bit of experience.
No, definitely, it's great for us. Give him a little bit more time, and he could settle in there when you've got an injury and got problems. I mean, it was the same as the scrum half thing where Nick Mallett was convinced you should move the guy to scrum half, which is an absolutely shocking idea. To have your best stepper and your best impact player there to take a gap at closest to the ball is not what you want. And it's probably the same at fly off, but as you said, it's better for the overall development of his game maybe, but. Now, how much does he need to develop anymore? And I'd like to see him play fullback, but it's not bad to play a game here and there. And I just think he's so ridiculously talented that he can make it anywhere. It's just it comes from playing sevens. Sevens, you get the ball at any place on the field, and you just got to adapt. So to me, that's not a big thing, but. I was quite surprised. Poor Jared got some comments there where guys are like, listen, why are you getting excited because he kicks one from the corner? It's like there wasn't even wind. It's not even rain. I've seen this guy do this and that guy do that. But, I mean, to think about the fact that Colby isn't the guy who kicks week in and week out. He has never been relied on in any team that he plays for to kick the points, consistently apart from stepping up here or there. So the fact that he nailed the kick, to say that, listen, he's got that extra skill. It just shows how incredibly talented he is. It's unbelievable that he can slot into different positions, that he can even take over the kicking. It just means he's a multi-talented rugby player, and no one's saying he's the best flyer for the best goal kicker, or he can do that as well as Johnny Wilkinson or whoever. It's just to say that he can do that as well. So hats off to him. He's a phenomenal player, and what a boy kick.
Just grateful to have him, I guess, guys. Thanks very much. It brings us to the end of the show tonight, just in time to go and watch Manchester United play. I'm not a United fan by any means, but I think it's what Chelsea against United tonight. Hey?
Go the Blues.
Yeah, the Blues. Andre, thanks very much. Have a good week, and we'll see you on Twitter. Just a reminder to everybody that the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters, that's our betting show, Thursdays at 9 o'clock. We'll have the panel on there to have a look at all the weekend's fixtures from a betting angle, so don't miss that one. Couch, thanks very much to you as well, and we'll see you when you get back from Oz.
Cheers, Ben. Thanks, y'all. Have a good one, and thanks to everyone who joined us in the chat.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks to all the guys in the live chat. We'll catch you next week, Monday as well, for Use It or Lose It, and as I say, Thursday night for the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters. Thanks, everyone.